Hi, welcome to my channel. In today's class, we'll be talking about probability. And we all know a probability is the numerical value that measures the uncertainty that some event will occur, and it is often used with the word chance, meaning to indicate the likelihood of occurrence of the event. So now there are three ways in measuring a probability. The first way to measure a probability is the classical probability. We have the relative frequency of occurrence and we have the subjective probability. So in classical concept of probability, if we have two events to occur, let's say the events are A and B. Two events are happening. Then for the event to occur, in classical concepts, we say the probability of an event to occur depends on these two items. If these two are happening, then the probability in classical concept define the probability favorable to the occurrence of an event A or B are likely or mutually exclusive. Meaning, if one is happening, then the other event is not happening. If an event B is happening, then event A is not happening. Or if event A is happening, then event B is not happening. So in this case, they are mutually exclusive. Now, the classical concept defines the probability of an event A to happen as the number of occurrence, possible number of occurrence of an event A divided by the total number of occurrence of event A and B. And now this is the classical concept of probability. Now, the next measure of probability is the subjective probability. We also call it the personality concept. So now, in personality concept, it defines the probability as the degree of belief or confidence placed on a particular event to happen. So now, the confidence you have will now determine the probability of it happening. So now is the degree of confidence you are having on that particular event to occur will now determine or is defining the subjective probability or the personality concept of probability. I'll give you an instance. The probability that you are going to die is a sure event. So now that concept or that degree of belief you have that you are going to die is being defined, is what defines the subjective probability here. So now you have the utmost sure, you have the assurance that you are going to die, but you don't know when you are going to die. So since you are going to die, then it is a sure event. It must happen. When is it going to happen? Only God knows. So now the degree of confidence you are having on this particular event is what determines the subjective probability. So next measure of probability is the frequency of occurrence. In relative frequency of occurrence, it says is a proportion of time that an event is going to happen in a long time under a uniform or static condition. For example, if you have a base coin is being tossed 1,000 times. A coin is being tossed 1,000 times. And you have the probability, you have the number of hits appearing after the 1,000 times is 700. The number of tails that happens or that you obtain when you toss the coin 1,000 times is 300. Right? You can't have anything apart from this, either head or tail. We all know a coin. A coin has two faces, a head and a tail. So now that coin is being tossed 1,000 times. The coin is being tossed 1,000 times, and we obtain head 700 times, and we also obtain tail 300 times. So now, in frequency of occurrence, the probability that you are going to have a head is being given by 700 over 1,000. 700 is a possible number of occurrence of head to appear after tossing the coin 1,000 times. And the total number of occurrence or the total number of outcomes or the total number of an event you are going to have is 1,000, because we said the coin is being tossed 1,000. So now this is going to be 0.7 as the probability of obtaining the head in frequency of occurrence. So now let's look at the basic axioms of probability. Now, the basic axioms of probability. The basic axiom of probability, or we call it the properties, or three basic properties of probability. We say the probability of an event A is a dimensionless quantity whose numerical values lies between 0 and 1. The probability of an event, any event, it lies in between these two values. It's never less than 0 and it will never be greater than 1. The probability of any event to occur, it will never be less than 0, meaning minus 0.1. Minus 0.1. Any negative value lying between less than 0 is not a probability. And any probability that an event is greater than 1 is also not a probability. So now the probability of an event must lie between 0 and 1. For instance, we say the probability is lying between these two numerical values. M is the number of possible outcomes of the event you are dealing with, where N is the total number of outcomes of that probability concept we are dealing with. So now if you divide both sides by N, divide this by N by N, this will now define the classical probability, which we define, or the relative frequency of occurrence. We say the classical probability of an event A is the number of occurrence of event A all over the total number of occurrences, or all over the total number of the event. So now the classical concept here define the probability of an event A by A all over A plus B. So now N here is the total number we are dealing with. M is the number of possible outcomes of that particular event you are dealing with. So now this defines the probability of an event A. Suppose it could be B, it could be Q, it could be any value. So now the probability here is lying in between these two values. Instead of M over N, I can say this is probability of A. Lying in between, N over N is 1. 0 over N is also 0. Any number divided by 0 divided by any number is 0. At this point, I don't want to go further. We can define it another way around in mathematics. So now, this value we said lying between 0 and 1, which we said is the first characteristic or is the first property of probability. Then the second axiom of probability, it says if the probability of an event A is equal to 1, then that probability is called a sure event. That event must happen. Meaning if P of A is equal to 1, it implies that N is equal to N. If M and N are equal, then we substitute either M we substitute by N and M we substitute by N. So now if M is equal to N, then we know that the probability of an event A is given by M over N. So if M and N are equal, then probability of an event A is given by N over N. And N over N is 1. So now the probability of this event to occur or to happen is equal to 1. Then this event is called a certain event or a sure event. That event must happen, which I gave you the instance in the subjective probability, where we said the probability that you are going to die is a sure event, meaning you must die. There are no two ways about it. You are going to die, you are going to die. I'm going to die, I'm going to die. Only that I don't know when I'm going to die. Only God knows. So now that probability that I am going to die is a sure event. So it is 1. So the probability here is a subjective probability. So now this is a second axiom of probability, which we say if the probability is equal to 1, then that event is called a sure or a possible, a sure event. So now the third axiom or the third characteristic or properties of probability, we said if P of A, probability of an event A is called 0, then that event is uncertain. If P of A is equal to 0, we said this probability is impossible event. This is an impossible event, meaning M is 0. If M is 0, the number of possible outcomes, it implies that M equal to 0, and the probability of A is given by M over N, and M is 0, we have N, 0 over N is 0. So now this probability is called impossible event. The probability of an event for it to be 0 is called an impossible, meaning it is not going to happen. It's an unsure event. Drop on your comment an example related to this probability that is not going to happen. I will see you some other time with another exciting episode on Math with Kantoma. We'll see you in the next class with example and solution on probability. If you have any question, do not hesitate to drop it on the comment section. If you are visiting the channel for the first time, kindly give us a thumbs up. Thank you.